If you want to learn how to invest in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies and locate the best Bitcoin IRA companies, you need to head on over to smartbitcoininvestments.com. That's smartbitcoininvestments.com. Over at Smart Bitcoin Investments, they are centered around teaching the subject of financial literacy for Bitcoin enthusiasts all over the globe. They have over 100,000 plus readers monthly and over 10,000 pages of useful information. So, for you Bitcoin investors out there, you veterans looking to up your game even better, Smart Bitcoin Investments has your hookup. For you Bitcoin beginners, Smart Bitcoin Investments has your hookup. And did you know Smart Bitcoin Investments has their own app in the iOS and Android stores? Oh yeah, you can find that and their social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by checking out this very episode synopsis. Check out the synopsis. I've included all the links, everything you need to head on over there to get started on upping your game when it comes to that Bitcoin. You know it's popular, you know you want to get into it, or you want to tighten your game even more. What are you waiting for? Head on over there right now, smartbitcoininvestments.com. That's smartbitcoininvestments.com. One more time, smartbitcoininvestments.com. What is good, kind people? It's the return of Impact Showdown, covering the latest Fallout and Impact Wrestling mixed in with a little bit of Impact Wrestling news. I am your host, Lee Sanders. It's great to be back with you guys once again for this episode. I know we've had this on a little bit of a hiatus these past couple of weeks, man, and look, tremendously from the bottom of my heart, I apologize for that. If you've been checking out the other shows that I put out on Mondays, Wednesdays, we even put a couple of bonus Thursday shows out there, a couple of Friday shows out there. You all know I've been pretty busy with personal stuff as school, and then we've got the wedding and the honeymoon coming up and all of that good stuff. So my schedule has been a little bit hectic, but I've been getting the opportunities as the weeks have progressed a little bit. It's getting a little bit more freer and everything. So to the point, I just took my final exam for my English class, which aced with flying colors. So I have now gone on to the next English course, which is basically the advanced English course for where I need to be as far as on that college level and everything for my English. So I'm excited for that. So I kind of have a little bit of a break right now until June with regards to my education. I'm not going to be starting up any classes again until June. So for the next couple of weeks, at least way things are looking right now as far as giving you guys Impact Showdown. You want it, you got it. But look, man, if you guys want me to continue to put out episodes of Impact Showdown covering Impact Wrestling Fallout, you got to hit me up throughout social media. You got to show that love, and you got to make sure that when you see that episode drop for on demand and the platforms for wherever you love getting your podcast, you got to make sure you're representing and you're hitting that like, you're hitting that heart, you're downloading, you're playing it, all that good jazz. That's definitely going to help motivate me to keep making sure I pump more out there at you guys. So do that. Appreciate that in advance. So missed a couple of episodes here and there. So it was kind of nice going in here just a tad bit blind, because the last time I had checked out Impact Wrestling regularly, it pretty much was leading up to that Rebellion pay-per-view event. And I think my soul was just so crushed because of what all had came about with that damn main event match between Rich Swann and Kenny Omega. I felt as if I just clocked out, honestly, no bullshit. So to miss a couple of episodes and go into this with a fresh set of eyeballs and just trying to see, okay, let's see what I've missed and everything. So let me see if I got this straight. And by the way, officially, We're now beginning your Impact Wrestling recap and review for Thursday of May the 6th, 2021. So I see we had got this recap where Scott D'Amore, the Impact Wrestling VP executive, gave Kenny Omega, essentially he spoke to Don Callis about this, but apparently Kenny Omega was given an ultimatum, as I guess he had missed a couple of episodes of Impact since he became the Impact World Champion. Am I understanding this right? I'll have to rely on you guys. I'm just following these recaps though. But apparently the ultimatum was either he shows up as the new champion, he basically fulfills his obligations to Impact Wrestling, and if it means he needs to be showing up representing the Impact brand and everything since he has the title, then yeah, he needs to show up or he is stripped of the title. From there, Sami Callihan had placed his name in the bucket list of number one contenders that we got that's eyeing Omega. We also have Eddie Edwards and Finn Juice. They're out there getting a little bit of assistance from the Good Brothers and everything. So a lot of stuff that's been going on these past couple of weeks, I see. Our first matchup of the evening was the Under Siege qualifier match. Chris Sabin taking on Rhino as James Storm was in Sabin's corner. Meanwhile, Rhino pretty much had Violent by Design out there with him, except for W. Morrissey. W. Morrissey was not there. However, we did get a nice little vignette package of Morrissey. More on that in a hot second. You know what? This match between Chris Sabin and Rhino, it was actually pretty solid, I would have to say. I loved just the brief little bit that I was seeing of Chris Sabin. I was almost kind of reminded of what exactly led him to the dance those years back when he ultimately became Impact World Champion. I know that's kind of something that most people don't want to remember and everything because it just kind of felt as if wrong time, wrong place, wrong person and everything. And I just know it was probably a bit hard for a lot of people to really get excited for Chris Sabin as a world heavyweight champion because you just look at his height, you look at his size, and it just really was not believable. But I think when you kind of think about things as far as in terms of the whole Daniel Bryan effect and everything, I think maybe Impact might have been a little bit influenced to a certain degree by seeing what companies like WWE were doing with smaller guys. You understand where I'm coming from? Guys like CM Punk, guys like Daniel Bryan, held to a certain degree, a guy like Ricochet to a certain degree. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that's kind of one of the reasons why Impact had decided to go with Chris Sabin and everything. But I tell you what, Chris Sabin, I will say this about him. He's been doing the very best in his power since he has been a solo act. And he's been shining. He's been shining really, really bright right now. And it just makes you kind of wonder, well, if and when Alex Shelley returns, are we really going to go back to the Motor City Machine Guns? Or at this point, because there's a nice little story arc that's there if you really kind of take a step back and think about it. And quite honestly, if I were to pitch something to Impact Wrestling, I would pitch something along the lines of if and when Alex Shelley does return, we have a Chris Sabin that is happy that whatever was going on with Alex Shelley in his personal life, be it injury, he was rehabbing something, what have you, great that he's back at 100%. But as far as trying to put the band back together again, Chris Sabin, just in a little nice, polite way, says, hey, look, I'm happy for you, brother. You know I'm always going to be your brother. Look, we've been at it. We've been up and down these roads now for how many years now? We've been at it for how many decades now that we've been going at it here together? Look, man, I'm just kind of gotten to a point in my career right now where I've got this nice trajectory going as a singles competitor. And, you know, I want to see that through. I want to see how far I can take it. You feel where I'm coming from, Alex? Because look, Man, I remember when I was the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. I remember that feeling I had and everything. It was a Cinderella story. And I hear those naysayers out there. You tell me time and time again to ignore them and everything, but I remember those naysayers from back in the day, man, and they just thought that it wasn't possible. That the only thing I could really ever amount to was a tag team specialist, was a tag team champion. And when I won that World Heavyweight Championship, I felt vindicated on so many levels and everything. And now we've got the detractors that's basically, they're still not only in denial, but they don't think I can repeat something like that again. So I'm just at a point right now where everything that's going on with me kind of as a solo act, I would rather, if it's all right, I'd rather go at it solo. And I would love to see a heel Alex Shelley eventually kind of blossom out of that. Wow, you fucking turn your back on me. And I personally would not mind seeing Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin go at it for a hot little bit. So Impact Wrestling, if you love that idea, you're welcome. Please fucking use it. Fucking use it. But this was a good opener match for Impact Wrestling. Chris Sabin advances to the Contenders match, joining the other guys. I'll give you the list breakdown of that in a hot second. From there, we cut to a scene backstage with Brian Myers, as he's pretty pissed off that he's not going to be in the Under Siege main event that's going to be coming up the next weekend. Remember, Under Siege is a Impact Plus exclusive pay-per-view event that's going to be dropping on Saturday, May the 15th. Rosemary catches up to Brian Myers and hands him one of those "get your free tarot card reading, it's clear." She gives him one of those, and she's pretty much trying to checkmate his ego. She's pretty much calling him out as far as, look, you're doing everything this way so far, and according to the cards, it's got you down packed. This is how you're coming off. You got some serious problems. And he just pretty much rejected what she was talking about. Meanwhile, Black Taurus just came out of nowhere, floored the hell out of Brian Myers. I enjoyed that whole sequence backstage between some nice little interesting chemistry that's going on there. They pretty much, Decay that is, they pretty much left Brian Myers laid out with a tarot card on his chest, and that pretty much was it. From there, Kenny Omega, Good Brothers, Don Callis, they're still gloating over the fact of how they beat down a few guys on the Impact roster from last week. Omega vows that from here on out, he's going to be doing his very best to be a good ambassador, to be a good brother, no pun intended, if you will, in helping the Good Brothers realize their truest potential as far as stringing together matches and ultimately getting back to the top of the mountain in Impact Wrestling, getting some tag team gold once again. Susan was in action as she took on Taylor Wilde. Taylor Wilde picked up the victory. A bit of a short match. It was remotely entertaining though, for what it was worth. Taylor Wilde, she's been looking pretty good so far since she's come back. I mean, this story is still in its infancy phase. So, we got to look to see how this exactly develops and everything. But I'm really liking where things kind of stand here. Also, what has me curious is the fact that we've got Tenille Dashwood that's in the mix of things, because in this particular matchup, Tenille Dashwood with Caleb, they were out there as spectators. But remember, Tenille still holds a little bit of beef, if you will, with Susan, Kimberly, Deonna Purrazzo and all that. She still kind of holds that little bit of resentment and everything. So she was watching all of this as it was going down. She saw when Kimberly had tried to cause a little distraction on the referee, try to cause some shenanigans and everything, help her girl out. And pretty much Tenille used that same page out of the playbook, except it worked very successful for her because she actually was able, because of her little distractions and all of that, working with Caleb and everything, they pretty much were able to screw Susan out of a victory and help Taylor Wilde out instead. So Taylor Wilde somehow found out that it was Tennille Dashwood that was kind of responsible for, and Taylor Wilde wasn't exactly too thrilled about that. But it would kind of appear that we've got this. I mean, it wasn't a case where Taylor Wilde had left, Taylor Wilde had left Tennille and Caleb out there hanging or anything like that. It wasn't anything like that at all. I think it's going to be one of those type of deals where it's going to be a nice, good, slow build up, right? It wasn't just a instant. Once Taylor Wilde kind of put two and two together, to Neil Caleb, they thought that maybe, all right, we got Taylor Wilde. She's now officially going to, but Taylor walked out on them. I kind of have a feeling that as this storyline progresses, Taylor Wilde is going to eventually let her guard down a little more, because you can just see this a mile away that numbers game between Susan, Deonna Purrazzo, Kimberly, that numbers game is going to be a little bit too much for Taylor Wilde. She's going to need some allies, and I can definitely see Taylor Wilde reluctantly saying, okay, Tennille, Caleb, all right, I'll put my differences to the side and we'll go ahead and we'll do this, but I'm watching you. It's going to be interesting to see how far along this goes. I don't know, guys. I mean, if you ask me straight up, this could be the beginning of a turn, if you will, for Tennille and Caleb. I think it would be a very little interesting trifecta as far as the three of these guys as a little pack. I think it would be very interesting to see on Impact. We'll have to wait and see what's going on with that. Meanwhile, Deonna Purrazzo, she's interviewed backstage, and she bumps into Rosemary, who's pretty much, yo, what's up? Give me a shot at that championship. Havoc pops up. She wants some too. So Deonna decides she's going to go talk to Scott D'Amore and see about having Rosemary and Havoc face off one-on-one, and whoever wins that gets to face her for her Knockouts championship. Well, later on in the night, Scott D'Amore actually catches up with Deonna, because Deonna never did try to go out of her way to look for Scott D'Amore, and he called her out on that bullshit. He said, everybody that wants to say something to me, they know how to easily come find me and everything. You, on the other hand, and he pretty much proceeded to tell her that he heard about that great idea for that number one contenders match, and he made the match official. So next week on Impact, we will be seeing Havoc and who's the other girl? Havoc and God, I can't believe Rosemary. I can't believe I blanked on her name that quick. Forgive me there, guys. But it's going to be those two that's going to be fighting next week. Tell you some more about some of the other matches that's going to be going down next week in a hot second. We got our W. Morrissey little vignette package. Great, very well produced, pretty much. Yeah, it was just him at different points, just walking back and forth, just throwing that wet hair up in the air and everything, flicking his head back and everything. And pretty much he was reflecting on the past without mentioning WWE, bringing up WWE, and how pretty much he was looked at as this colorful, kind of goofy type of character, mainly known for a catchphrase, but pretty much that was just a facade, because if you would have just stripped that away and got to the very core of the man, basically there was like this quiet rage. There was a man that was hurt and all this other shit. I also love the part about when he basically got on the fans and the peers, and just how everybody in the business was getting on him. And when they pretty much saw his fall from grace, they all pretty much doubted him, said he was done. And he talked about how toxic it was, how phony people are, how he feels so reinvigorated to go out there and prove to all the naysayers they were wrong about him and everything. And sadly, coming up at Under Siege, his first victim is going to be Willie Mack. So Willie Mack, W. Morrissey, that should be pretty damn good at Under Siege. Under Siege qualifier match, Rohit Raju taking on Trey Miguel. Love this. This match was actually pretty damn good. Honestly, for me, this was actually one of my favorite matches of the night between these two guys. Rohit Raju has just been doing a phenomenal job as a heel. I gotta say, he's been tearing it up. I'm continuing to be impressed with his work. And remember, I wasn't always a fan of Rohit Raju, as some of you guys may recall. I love seeing right when Trey Miguel went up to the top of the ramp, Jake Something had came out. Jake Something, obviously, some unfinished business there with Rohit. He also had some beef there with Shira, and it was nice. It was nice freaking seeing him just pretty much lay both of those guys out. I mean, nice, good, strong. That Jake's up. He's really coming along, isn't he? I mean, he is really, really coming along. We get a long played out segment of Swingers Palace, as pretty much all the Under Siege competitors, they're there. They pretty much were just cracking jokes on each other, going back and forth, just trading little verbal shots and everything. That pretty much was what it was all about. Meanwhile, Doc Gallows, back to the in-ring action. Doc Gallows, he saw action against Juice Robinson. Okay. You know, it was okay. I mean, really nothing more I can say about it. You know, it's your typical, you know, there's nothing flashy. There's nothing flamboyant. There's nothing cool. There's nothing badass. There's nothing, you know, I wouldn't even say this was kind of it wasn't a below average match, but I kind of don't even really want to say an average match either. I mean, honestly, for me personally, I would have been okay if we would have had another knockouts match right here. I mean, this really didn't do anything for me. Be perfectly honest with you. It did not do anything for me. Next matchup of the evening, VSK. VSK was in action against Il Fantasmo. Il Fantasmo from New Japan Pro Wrestling, the 34-year-old from Vancouver, Canada. I got to tell you, this was my first time seeing Il Fantasmo, because I know some of you guys, you try to do your very best to help me get into New Japan and everything, but a brother can only have but so many subscriptions and everything. But I mean, this guy's been doing his stuff for the Extreme, Canadian Championship Wrestling, Power Zone Wrestling, All-Star, Rev Pro. He's been in New Japan since 2019. So, you know, he did pretty damn good. I personally felt. Remember, he had appeared on the April 29th edition of Impact when it was announced via a vignette that ELP would be making his Impact Wrestling debut sometime in the coming weeks. And then during the next episode, he had made his in-ring debut and everything against VSK. This was pretty damn good. You know, Il Fantasmo, he reminds me a lot of, it's so funny because when I first saw him come out, no bullshit, when I first saw him come out, I thought it was Carl Anderson, and I thought he was like making fun of somebody. And I'm thinking to myself, who's he making fun of? Is he like trying to make fun of Finn Balor or something? Like what's going on here? You know, especially since he kept doing the suck it kind of, you know, I wasn't sure what was going on with him. He was doing the little suck it crotch gestures like DX, you know, let's get ready to suck it, you know. I wasn't sure if he was going for that, trying to make fun of Sean Waltman. Literally, no bullshit. I thought it was Carl Anderson that was trolling. And once he took his hat off and, you know, he starts pointing into the sky and does a nice little backflip and all that, I'm going, okay, hey, it's not Carl Anderson. Oh, okay, cool. I like the guy. I like the guy. The match was short, but both guys, even VSK, both of those guys look fucking stellar, fucking awesome. I mean, look, assuming this is long term, VSK and Il Fantasmo, They are going to be phenomenal in the X division, and I'll go you one even better. I would like to see these guys definitely, besides the X division, I definitely would love to see these guys be some tag team champions. I think just the couple of minutes that we saw of them in the ring, although it was very brief, you were entertained. Great high flying, great well paced action and everything. Nice fucking energy. I loved it. I loved it. Great addition. Kira Hogan was in action against Rachel Ellering. This was actually a pretty solid, good matchup. Rachel Ellering is really proven to be a pretty damn good, strong ass powerhouse, man. I mean, that girl, isn't it amazing? And I mean this in the most complimentary way, but when you just think back to when we really last saw of Rachel Ellering on a somewhat regular basis down there in NXT and everything, how tiny and all that she was. And now you look at where she is, physically and everything. I mean, it's like two completely different women. I mean, that girl is jacked, is she not? That girl is seriously jacked. I'm just picturing her at the gym doing the whole thing with the weights and everything. I wonder how much she bench presses. Seriously, I wonder how much she fucking bench presses, because I'm starting to see delts, I'm starting to see trapezoids and all that other good shit on her. I mean, she's looking fucking beast. She is. I love how and again, Rachel Ellering had picked up the dub here. Rachel's looking good. Rachel is looking good, not just from a tag team competitor standpoint, but she's also looking pretty damn good from a singles competitor standpoint. And I loved how backstage Kira Hogan and Tasha Steelz, they pretty much were trying to dust themselves off and everything after what had went down with Rachel. And then Jordynne Grace and Rachel, they popped up and they started talking trash and everything. And Kira and Tasha, they just pretty much countered right back to Jordynne Grace how, yeah, well, you wasn't doing anything. You wasn't hitting pay dirt. You wasn't getting nothing. But then when you teamed up with Rachel over here, now you start making money and everything. So you know what? We already know what you're about, which ain't about nothing. Rachel Ellering is where it is. That's all right, boo-boo. You've had our number a couple of times, but we gonna get your ass. Jordan, you ain't nothing. We ain't tripping over you. We've had your number many times. That's why you had to go out and get somebody like Rachel to try to help save your little ass. That basically was how they were coming at Jordynne Grace. I loved it. I ate every single minute up of them girls going back and forth on Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace got in the face of Tasha Steelz and said something along the lines of, okay, well, you know what? Apparently you and I have never gone one-on-one against each other. So tell you what, why don't you and me have a match on next week's Impact? And Tasha Steelz was like, yeah, sure. I'm down with that. You want to go ahead and okay, yeah, bet. Let's go ahead and do that. Now I know some of you guys are probably saying, wait a minute, Lee, is that accurate? Tasha Steelz and Jordynne Grace have never gone one-on-one against each other. Are you sure about that, dog? And the way it stands right now, believe it or not, guys, yes, it is accurate. When I first heard that, I fucking did a double take and I was like, no, surely they did do something together. Like surely they did something. No. To the point. You go back to Impact Wrestling's Sacrifice joint back from March 13th of this year. And when it came to that tag team match, that was essentially Jordynne Grace's first time having some type of involvement as far as match-wise. That was her first time having officially some type of involvement with Tasha Steelz. But as far as just going one-on-one with Tasha, no. And then the last time before that, you got to go back to October 24th of 2020, episode of Impact Wrestling, when Jordynne Grace teamed up with Alicia Edwards to take on Kira Hogan and Tasha Steelz. So if anything, that was actually the second time that Jordan Grace had some type of involvement with Tasha Steeles. So yeah, this one-on-one, that's going to be the first time in a one-on-one setting that they're going to be facing each other. So I'm looking forward to it. That should actually be a pretty damn good match. Honestly, I'm looking forward to that. And I think at this point we may be able to tell you about some of those matches that's going to be coming up. I tell you what. I'll tell you what. Should we go into it? Yeah, let's go ahead and go into it right now because they did kind of run it down right before we got to our main event match. So one more time, coming up on next week's Impact, we got the Knockouts Championship #1 contenders match as Rosemary would take on Havoc. Winner advances to Under Siege to take on Deonna Purrazzo for her Knockouts Championship. There's also going to be a #1 contenders X Division scramble match as Petey Williams faces AC Romero, Ace Austin, TJP, Rohit Raju, and Il Fantasmo. Also in action, David Finlay takes on Carl Anderson. So going to be pretty damn good. I'm looking forward to that episode of Impact. Now, we got our Under Siege qualifier match. Moose taking on James Storm. Backstage, right before Moose came out for this match, Don Callis actually tried to have a few words with him, and he was trying to plant in Moose's head how it's a disservice, how it basically sucks that Moose has to even qualify for the right to face the Impact World Champion. It doesn't make sense because look at Moose, look at everything that he's accomplished thus far in his career, in his professional wrestling career and everything. It makes no sense. If anything, it should be handed to him. He should be the #1 contender. It should be handed to him. He shouldn't have to go out and do some qualifier match to then advance to some ultimate match where everybody's facing each other, risk injury and all of this. And Moose pretty much just told Don Callis, look, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to butter me up. Shit's not going to work. Forget about it. Forget about it. And Don Callis, seriously, what if you get injured out there? Yada, 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 yada. And Moose just left Don Callis high and dry. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if between the match that's going to be going down at Under Siege, maybe something slightly after that, I wouldn't be surprised if something were to happen with Moose where he does get injured and he's off of TV for a little bit, because in case you missed it, we kind of talked about this briefly on the RCWR show earlier this week, which was Moose is having his, he's kind of negotiating, trying to see if he can stay in Impact and everything, as his contract is supposed to expire, if not June, July. It's either June or July that his contract is supposed to expire. And he pretty much said on social media openly that, hey, he would love to be the Impact World Champion before his contract expires. So he's really hoping that, something really cool can happen and everything. So I would love to see him become the Impact World Champion. I mean, that just may convince him to maybe stick around a little bit if they were to pull the trigger and make him the champion, all that. I would love to see that happen. I've been telling you guys for a couple of years now how Moose is the fucking man, how he's badass and everything. I mean, he looks like $1 million fucking dollars. And when you see what's been happening with him from a physical standpoint, I mean, he's really been up in his game big time in the gym. I don't see not even 1% of body fat on him. I'm very, very fucking impressed. Very fucking impressed with him. This was a good match between Moose and James Storm. Love the psychology, love the storytelling that they told in this match, particularly when Moose was homing in on James Storm's leg, being that ultimate heel and really putting the screws to James Storm. You don't just pick up the W in strong, dominating fashion, but to add insult to injury, you also got to take a steel chair to James Storm's leg and you do a serious number on that leg while it's caught up between that steel chair, that there's no telling how long the cowboy is going to be out. You don't know if that's going to be a couple of weeks or if that's going to be a month, two, three. Just the way that they did things right there, I'm telling you, a couple of interesting scenarios could come about from this. One scenario could be that the cowboy James Storm tries to extract some type of revenge on Moose before going to Under Siege and everything. And James Storm could possibly take out Moose right then and there. And as a result of that, you're kind of saying to yourself, oh shit, so what's going to happen with that Under Siege number one contenders match? What's going to happen? Are we going to get a mystery opponent that's going to slide right in there? What's going to happen right there? And then that's maybe how you kind of write out Moose for a hot minute. I mean, that's one scenario that could play out. Another scenario that could play out, Moose could very well just boom, he becomes the number one contender. And then maybe he ultimately faces Kenny Omega for the Impact Championship, wins the Impact Championship back. But then one of the first feuds that he has for that championship is a returning James Storm. I mean, Impact's in a really interesting position right here. There's a couple of different directions that they could go right here. But overall, this episode that they did for this week, pretty solid on the in-ring action. A little bit of, character developments here and there and everything. Moose definitely really stood out to me the most, though. ELP, El Phantasmo, badass. Definitely loved what he was doing. Definitely tore it up and everything. I definitely need to see a lot more with Omega. I'm happy that now from here on out, pretty much we're guaranteed now Omega some type of an appearance and everything. But this whole, you got to show up or you're stripped of the, I still just can't help but say, where is the outrage from the other talents on the Impact roster to the point of going to AEW Dark, going to AEW Elevation, going to AEW Dynamite, and causing a ruckus because their championship is pretty much, you understand what I'm saying, over with another company. I'm still not enjoying this whole AEW Impact feud. But hey, it is what it is. I don't want to go on and on and on about that. You all know how I feel about that, as I brought it up many times over the past several weeks. Hey, and interesting Impact Wrestling news, Jordynne Grace has apparently signed a new multi-year deal with Impact Wrestling, and she had said, and quote direct quote unquote quote, you guys know what I'm talking about. I still feel like there's more for me to do here and a lot of potential for growth. I feel like at Impact, I have opportunities to do things that I might not be able to do in other companies. That's one of the main reasons I decided to stick around. Remember, originally, she joined Impact in 2018, and apparently this deal that she had going on, it was supposed to expire sometime this month. And apparently this new deal that she has going on right now is for 2 years, and it's going to run through May 2023. So, that's good. I mean, it's a smart move for Impact because, 25 years of age, just barely starting to really chip away at her career. The best is yet to come as far as Jordynne Grace goes. I mean, I definitely see multi-time championships in her future, whether it's as a knockout champion or it is a tag team knockouts champion. I mean, there's a lot. There is a lot that they can do. Yeah, I mean, she keeps going as far as the trajectory goes of her career in Impact. She can definitely follow in suit of the Mickie James, the Gail Kims, the Tara's / Victoria. She could definitely follow in those footsteps without a shadow of doubt. So pretty awesome, pretty freaking awesome. So congrats to her. Happy to hear that she's going to be sticking around. One solid, cool thing. I love that. I love that. It's a good move. It's a good move. Also, with regards to Thursday's Impact Wrestling on Access TV, as far as how the ratings had went for this week, check this out. This was actually pretty good. So Impact had averaged 123,000 viewers. That's slightly up from the previous week's episode, which averaged 120,000 viewers. That was the April 29th edition. Remember, for that respected episode, we pretty much had night one of the, it was night one, round one of the 2021 NFL draft that was on ABC and on ESPN. With regards to the 18 to 49 demo, Impact had drew a 0.04 rating, slightly down from the 0.5 rating from the previous edition of Impact. Overall, this week, Impact had ranked 125 for the evening in the top 150 shows on cable. That's also down. That's down from the 112 ranking that they had from the previous week. So, think about that for a second. Think about that. They got 123,000. Meanwhile, Dark Side of the Ring, their season 3 premiere on Brian Pillman, that averaged like 272,000. 272,000. Yeah. So, you hear that and you're like, you can look at it combined and you could say, well, you know what, overall, it was a great night for wrestling fans in general. Sure, but man, you think you could get a little bit more than just 123,000 there. Got some EC3 news. I know EC3 is not in Impact right now, but you think EC3, you do think about his time there in Impact where he was most successful and everything. As many of you guys probably know, he's been out of action recently, and it looks like he was hospitalized due to an infection. He shared a blog update earlier in the week about his condition and recent hospitalization and everything. And he indicated that he's now out of the hospital and he's back home. So that's very good to hear. And he's pretty much recovering. And if you guys recall, initially he was supposed to be doing his Free the Narrative event that was scheduled for May 27th, where he was originally scheduled to take on Matt Cardona, but kind of looks like that might be off the table for now and everything. So if you guys haven't, checked it out, his blog, definitely, especially if you follow him on social media and everything, make sure you go give that a read and everything. And remember, he had also, if I remember correctly, he had also announced that he was going to be working with Ring of Honor, I think, for like a limited time thing and all that. So, it kind of sucks right now. So definitely, wish him a speedy recovery. Definitely want to see him come back at 100% and everything when he's good and ready. So also, Impact Wrestling had announced a new deal with Samsung Plus. Not sure how many of you guys had heard about this, if you're even aware of this, but apparently they're going to be bringing their content to video on demand, and Impact Wrestling is going to be getting its own channel. They actually have a press release that's out about it and everything. So the press release, it's rather, lengthy, but when you get right down to the heart of the matter, basically Samsung TV Plus viewers, they will now be able to enjoy action-packed programming featuring Impact Wrestling stars. Also, viewers will get access to unprecedented access to Impact's extensive library of premium professional wrestling content through both a dedicated Impact Wrestling channel and a video on demand. So, that's pretty damn good. That is pretty damn good. As far as when this is supposed to be happening, I think it's kind of underway right now because from what I had saw, Samsung TV Plus users, they'll be able to enjoy Impact's dedicated channel right now as it's located on channel 1164. Again, 1164. So, check it out. If you got your Samsung TV, go ahead, check it out. They also got a Pluto channel as well. I'm not sure how many of you all are aware of that. It's a lot of repetitive content that's on there, but you do get to see some really cool stuff from the TNA days and all that. And again, that's for Pluto. So think about that. You got Pluto. They also got Roku. Impact's got their own little channel thing, app thing on Roku. You got the Impact Plus. So I mean that's pretty damn good. I mean that's pretty damn good. I'm pretty amped up. So I'm definitely going to be checking it out this weekend because I do have a Samsung TV Plus. So I'm definitely going to be checking it out, and I'll let you guys know on the next episode of Impact Showdown how I'm digging it. I'll let you guys know about the pros, the cons, and all of that good stuff. Other than that, as far as any other Impact Wrestling news that's going on, that is pretty much it for now. It's been relatively quiet. For those of you that may be a little bit curious about how the Under Siege card is looking right now, here is your updated card. As it stands right now. I am seeing the following matches right now. We've got the 6-way number 1 contenders match. Chris Sabin faces Chris Bay, Sammy Callahan, Matt Cardona, Trey Miguel, and Moose. All right. Number 1 contender that comes out of that gets to take on Kenny Omega for the Impact Championship. Also at Under Siege, Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers, they will team up to take on the team of Eddie Edwards and Finn Juice. We got the Knockouts tag team titles. Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellery defend against Fire and Flavors, Kira Hogan, Tasha Steelz. W. Morrissey will be facing Willie Mack. Brian Myers goes head to head with Black Taurus. And that's pretty much it right now. So that's like 4, 5. That's like 5 matches right now. Should be about 2 to 3 more that we're going to know about as we get closer to it. I promise you that. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Hey, I want to give a shout out to our Patreon members, patreon.com/RCWR show. Remember, that's the place to go to. Check out bonus audio, video content, great majority of which you won't be able to find anywhere else. Shout out to our Patreon Familia, Anthony DeBlasi, Don Tony. Shout out to you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Shout out to Freddie. Shout out to longtime RCWR show supporter Gino Morgan. Also, shout out to Michael Wolf, John Davis, JD Davis. Hey, be sure to check out Screaming Bulls 1. He's a fantastic wrestling sculptor. If you need custom figures or busts made, be sure to hit him up. Look him up on Twitter at Screaming Bulls 1. Put in the actual number 1, Screaming Bulls 1. Shout out to Wishful Walking Videos. They're on YouTube. Make sure you show them some love and check them out. Also, definitely want to give a shout out to our newest sponsor for the next couple of episodes, smartbitcoininvestments.com. If you want to learn how to invest in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies and locate the best Bitcoin IRA companies, check out Smart Bitcoin Investments. Whether you're a veteran or you're a beginner when it comes to Bitcoin and Bitcoin investments, well, smartbitcoininvestments.com can help you out. Check them out today, smartbitcoininvestments.com. As far as what's on tap, well, for this weekend, I'm definitely going to be teaming up with Tammy, and we're going to be putting out a new episode of Wrestling with the Topics. That's going to be dropping this Sunday, May the 9th. So check out the Patreon feed for that. If you're not a Patreon member, sign up. Just takes a couple of seconds. $5 gets you access to boatloads of content you won't be able to find anywhere else. Your free-for-all edition of the RCWR show will be dropping on Monday night, May the 10th, 2021. We'll be coming on immediately and live after WWE Raw goes off the air. You know how we do it on there, covering the latest in all things wrestling, entertainment, and beyond since 2011. It's the RCWR show. Check out that Monday night edition. And in the meantime, be kind, rewind, check out previous episodes available on demand and the downloads wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check out the video on demand episodes on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/the RCWR show. By the way, if you guys have missed it and you want to hear my thoughts on the Brian Pillman Dark Side of the Ring season premiere, that is available on our YouTube channel. So definitely show that some love. It's been receiving a decent amount of praise and well-received reviews for what all I had to say about that episode. So check that out. Get at me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Use the keywords The RCWR Show. And until next go around, I'm wishing all of y'all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. I will see you next go round. Thanks for checking out this episode of Impact Showdown. Take care.
Thanks for listening. An Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive.